Being late for my emergency room shift was the worst thing that could have happened to me, until an unfamiliar woman knelt at my feet, clenched her fist so tightly it ached, and cried out, "My God, Madison! They said you were dead 28 years ago." Antiseptic and stale coffee odors wafted down the corridor. Scratching their sneakers on the shiny flooring, the nurses hurried by. Drilling into my brain, the dazzling lights above me buzzed like enraged bees. At one point, I considered the possibility that it was only a dream in which I would wake up drenched in perspiration and tangled in my own blankets, my pulse racing like a battle drum. Warm and genuine, the woman's tears seeped into my scrubs. No matter how many times I mumbled an apology, she still wouldn't release her grip on me. The desperate intensity with which her gray, stormy, red-rimmed eyes met mine sent shivers down my spine. A scent of lavender lotion and wet wool lingered on her person. As she spoke my name once again, I could sense her nails nibbling at my flesh. It wasn't the name I'd always gone by, but it was one I'd never heard really pronounced. "Rose Madison Hale," I moaned. A knot formed in my throat. The sound of the buzzing monitors and the gentle voice calling Dr. Patel to Trauma Bay 3 were almost drowned out by the fury of my heartbeat. To me, that was an irrelevant name. Or perhaps it did. Something changed in my chest the second she uttered it. A faraway sound, some remnant of an irretrievable part. An image of a merry-go-round whirling beneath a canopy of verdant trees. The sound of a man's laughing, a polka-dotted pink frock. However, in an instant it vanished, dissipated like smoke from the hospital's ventilation systems. "Excuse me, ma'am," I said, my voice quivering. "Olivia Monroe here. I think you've got me mixed up with someone else." Her head shook so fiercely, though, that strands of silver hair slipped out of her bun. No, it's you. Everything about you, the eyes, the nose, even that small scar above your eyebrow." She reached up and touched the thin line just below my hairline. I recoiled in shock as I realized she was aware of the scar I'd sustained when I fell off my bike when I was 7 years old or so, my mom always said. Before her, I gazed. I opened my lips to speak, but no words out. A gurney slammed through 2 sets of doors, a baby's piercing sobs echoed down the hall, and the aroma of blood and bleach made everything seem to be leaning to one side. For an instant, my eyesight became hazy. It was as if I were about to puke. Her voice dwindled to an unintelligible mumble as she tightly gripped a necklace around her neck. "They said you were lost and impossible to locate, but look at you alive and well. Madison." Like a car smash, her words hit me. I nearly collided with a passing orderly as I lurched backward. "Living in Madison? 28 long years ago." As I rasped out, I have no idea what you're talking about." My tongue became numb. A chill went up my spine the second I spoke those words. Just a tiny voice within me was nagging at the thought that this complete stranger may know something about me that I had never dared to dream. For as long as I can remember, I've been told that my name is Olivia Monroe. My name is Olivia Monroe, and I've worn it proudly and protectively for as long as I can remember. I've been living with the false belief that I had a complete and utter sense of self for the better part of 3 decades. Working at Boston Medical Center, I am an emergency room nurse, the type of environment where you quickly learn to maintain composure no matter how tense you feel on the inside, where the sound of alarms might disrupt an otherwise peaceful night, and where the results of blood pressure tests can derail even the most tranquil plans. The hours are long and hard, but I enjoy my job. Strangers entrust you with the details of their worst day at the emergency room, which adds an element of rawness and immediacy to the experience. The excitement. When you save someone from certain disaster and witness a spark of appreciation in their eyes, those are the moments that matter. My life is relatively mundane outside of the hospital, or it was. A 3-story bakery begins to waft cinnamon and yeast into my windows before morning, and I live alone in a modest brick-walled flat on Tremont Street. In winter, chilly breezes slip in through an imperfectly locked window, rattling the blinds. I adorned the space with repurposed furnishings and artwork found from thrift stores. A few spider plants that I seem to have forgotten to water, a worn gray couch that belonged to my college friend, and a little wobbly bookcase stacked with nursing textbooks make up the rest of the room. From my window I can hear the cacophony of Boston every morning, blaring horns, the screech of bus engines, and in the dead of winter, the gentle calm of snowfall. I make a pot of black coffee so strong it could likely remove paint after stumbling into my cramped kitchen. Even when there's knee-deep snow on the walkways, I can't resist the temptation of an iced coffee. James and Ellen Monroe. My parents continue to reside in the Quincy, Massachusetts home where they brought me up. On an hourly basis, my mom reminds me to eat, get some sleep, and contact home by text message. She constantly bombards me with ridiculous cat dancing gifs and nurse life memes, while my father, who is more reserved but no less affectionate, refers to me as Livy and makes sure to check the oil level of my car whenever I come. I always thought they loved me, and that I was born to them when I was a kid. I first appear in our family photos when I'm 3 years old, with my hair in pigtails, and a birthday cake smeared on my face. My parents stand proudly at my side. Everything up to that point was supposedly destroyed in a fire, according to Mom. I was never one to doubt it. For what reason? Striking, determined, and occasionally obstinate are words that describe me according to my friends. I agree with them. Sarah, my best friend since nursing school, uses the term the human lie detector to describe me, since I am very good at detecting when someone is being dishonest. A dental hygienist by trade, she has a heart large enough to save every homeless animal in Boston, and a laugh that could break glass. Will is a paramedic and a personal friend of mine. He has rescued my butt on several occasions while I was in the emergency room. His fast hands, black hair, and sardonic humor mask his intense care. The type of mayhem that makes sense to those who work in healthcare is what I experience every day. Lots, many hours. Quick to anger. The buzzing of light bulbs. As the latex gloves snap. I've consoled total strangers while they wept for deceased loved ones. I've driven crash carts down corridors at high speeds. I have sewed wounds, drawn blood-administered medications, and watched helplessly while vital signs failed to improve. Even though my professional life is full with drama, my personal life has always seemed ordinary, always the same. Personally, I like to believe that I have a good sense of self-awareness. Who is capable of dealing with any challenge that comes her way? Until the day that woman looked me in the eyes and told me my name was Madison Rose Hale. Now I find myself lying awake at night, gazing at the ceiling fan casting shadows over my walls, and I can't help but wonder if anybody here knows themselves honestly. Feeling as though the foundation of the life I've worked so hard to build rests on mysteries I'll never fully comprehend. The air was heavy with the scent of disinfectant and rain on a Monday afternoon, as the sky hung low over Boston like a lead blanket. A call came over the intercom, an elderly female experiencing a syncopal episode coming from the ambulance bay right after I completed providing a patient report. As the paramedics rolled in, a woman who was obviously very sick, I pried open the metal doors leading to the emergency room. She had gray hair stuck to her temples and a pale, rain-splattered face. No one appeared to grasp the meaning of the words she was mumbling. She sprang up on the stretcher and gasped the second our gazes connected. She reached out and grabbed the sleeve of my scrubs with her fingers that looked like claws. Madison was the name she finally managed to stutter out. "Wow, you're still alive." A tidal surge of bewilderment washed over me, causing me to nearly trip and fall. I softly responded, "Ma'am, you're in the hospital," as I attempted to remove her fingers from my arm. "Hi, I'm Olivia. Olivia Newton-John. Are you aware of your location?" Yet her big, frantic eyes were betraying her. Despite the whir of activity as paramedics and nurses repositioned IV bags and equipment, she paid little attention to the buzzing monitors around us. You possess her gaze," she said. "The same verdant hue, speckled with shimmering golden beads. The same small wound." Her hand quivered as she tentatively ran her touch across the arch of my eyebrow. A chill ran down my spine. "How did you discover my scar?" I demanded, my air coming out of my ears. Because Madison got that scar when she was 4 years old, fell off the jungle gym in Franklin Park. She explained, her voice cracking sometimes. Just above her eyebrow there are 3 stitches. Both the space and the lighting were off-putting. My chest felt like it was about to burst through my ribs at any second. Saying, "That's impossible." I shook my head in disapproval. "Hello, I am Olivia. Franklin Park is somewhere I've never gone." Her moist, quivering lashes matched her bulging eyes. "The one on your left shoulder is shaped like a star, isn't it?" My eyesight became hazy as I blinked vigorously. Everything around me temporarily quieted down to a low rumble. Outside of my immediate family, no one knew about the birthmark. Beside my shoulder blade rested a little star. It was my fortunate mark, my mom would tell me. My shooting star was what my ex-boyfriend from college had dubbed it. I managed to get out, "I believe you're confusing me with someone else, even though my voice was as dry as paper." The woman took a nervous breath as she continued to hold my sleeve. She introduced herself as Carol Matthews. "Your actual mother was my sister. My niece Madison Rose Hale is her name. It has been 28 years since you vanished." A shiver went through my entire body and I could feel my blood tingling. "It's not true," I murmured. "The Monroe family, James and Ellen, are my parents. Olivia has always been my name." As her grip on my arm loosened, she cried out in a choked fit. "You went missing from your backyard when you were just 5 years old. Pink dresses were your favorite, peanut butter was your least favorite, and your stuffed rabbit Mr. Buttons was your bedtime companion." A fleeting recollection of a gray rabbit with floppy ears and a name uttered in a child's voice vanished before my eyes could grasp it. An overwhelming wave of fear pounded my heart, and in an effort to calm it, I frantically shook my head. "Nah, I can't place any of that." With shaking hands, Carol rummaged through her purse's tissues and receipts until she found a little weathered snapshot. She extended it toward me. "Just take a look at this." I was a little nervous when I took it, but eventually I did. Standing in a yard strewn with fallen leaves, the snapshot depicted a small girl wearing a pink sundress. Her hair matched mine in color, a deep chestnut. As she smiled for the camera, 2 front teeth were gone. Her eyes were the same as mine, green with golden flecks. The world seemed to crumble beneath my feet. "This photo is completely new to me." Carol's eyes welled up with tears. "I've been trying to track you down for nearly 30 years, she said, her voice shaking. "Then you must be confused. Madison, you are this. You are my loved ones." Short, piercing gasps were the sound of my breath. The picture fluttered to the floor as it fell from my grasp. I couldn't stop thinking about how my whole existence had just broken open, and something I had no idea was buried was going to burst out. My footfall reverberated off the walls of the corridor as I strode away from Carol, the recollection of her tears stinging like acid. I stumbled into the staff lounge after shoving open the door, my thoughts all over the place. As I struggled to catch my breath, I perched on the sofa's edge, my fingers entangled in my hair. What gives a stranger the ability to see the scar on top of my head? That star on my shoulder, for example, or its precise outline. Rose Madison Hale. The name seemed strange, like a word in a language I didn't know when I attempted to whisper it. I hardly recalled punching out when my shift eventually came to a close. I sat looking at the driving wheel of my ancient Honda Civic, while Carol's voice echoed in my brain, the windshield pummeled by the rain. As soon as I left the hospital parking lot, I contacted Sarah. "Is anything wrong, Liv?" Her question was rhetorical. Normally bubbly, her voice tightened up as she expressed worry. "Someone may have mistaken me for a missing girl, I'm afraid. Things that no stranger could possibly know about me were known to her." "Take it easy, tell me what you mean." My speech was so rapid that I could not catch my breath as I spilled the beans to her. Regarding the wound, the mark of birth, the picture of the small girl who bore an uncanny resemblance to me. Sarah moaned and sighed. "That's insane, Liv." "I know," I said, my voice quivering. "Still, what if she has a point? What if I don't actually own my entire life?" "Very well, I understand. We shouldn't assume anything. Maybe all you are is a girl's reflection." Yet she was aware of the scar, the rabbit Mr. Buttons, and everything else. Sarah swallowed hard. "I've never heard of a Mr. Buttons," you said. "That's because I can't even recall ever having a rabbit as a pet," I muttered. Worried, I hung up the phone. My flat was noticeably chillier than normal when I returned home. The shadows on the brick walls were longer. After setting my suitcase on the couch and turning on the lights, I gazed at the framed images on my bookcases. They all began at about the age of 3. Celebrations of a special occasion, the first day of elementary school, getting ready for Christmas morning in matching jammies. I removed the most antiquated record from its rack. The cover bore the immaculate handwriting of my mother, which read, Olivia, Early Years. On every page I could see a kid who looked just like me, a little girl with dark chestnut hair and green eyes. Little one carefully blowing out each candle, holding a plush giraffe close. 11 on a beach with my parents' hands in mine. No prior information. Refrain from including images of infants. Pictures of toddlers are not allowed. My spine tingled with a chill. I got in touch with Mom. She responded with a kind, familiar voice after the phone rung twice. Hello there, my love. How is the nurse I love? I said Mom, in a raspy voice. Why aren't there any photos of me when I was a baby? The other side of the phone line was completely silent. Mom, who I swallowed hard as I pushed. Her throat was cleansed. Oh, darling, we've already discussed this. That inferno. I thought you might recall. We had a complete loss prior to your 3rd birthday. My eyes were shut. Where were we residing before to Boston, though? How did we get here? My sweetheart, I don't remember the precise address. That happened eons ago. You have an incredible memory, Mom. You still have my prom dress receipts. My pediatrician's name is still fresh in your mind. Why do you seem to have forgotten our address? Her speech faltered. Livy, what gives with all these questions? I was hesitant. Under my breath, I said, Did you and Dad adopt me? On the other side, a sharp inhalation. Olivia, I implore you. Stop doing this. You're the one we raised as kids. In the end, that's what counts. My grip on the phone became so firm that it hurt. Am I, however, Madison Rose Hale? Just as my mom hung up, she let out a choked cry. A faraway screech echoed in my ear as the dial tone persisted. It was as if someone had crushed my chest. A vortex of confusion swirled through my mind. I proceeded to spend the subsequent hours rummaging through each and every drawer, file box, and cardboard bin beneath my bed, in quest of something. Anything at all. Some information. Afterwards, I uncovered an envelope that had become yellow from age behind a stack of old birthday cards. A certificate was enclosed. My certificate of birth. Reading the name typed across the top made me choke. Rose Madison Hale. The person was born on June 12, 1990. Catherine Hale is the mother. I don't know, Dad. The diploma crumpled in my trembling hands as I collapsed to the floor, my legs giving out. It was all hazy. It was as if my brain were cracking open 100 memories at once. What on earth was I? Renewed my call to Sarah. Words were almost uttered due to the extreme shaking of my voice. It was under a different name that I discovered a birth certificate, Hale Madison Rose. Out of the blue, Sarah whistled softly. Liv, things have just been heated up. This woman has to be addressed once again. Schedule a DNA test. Determine the reality. As my heart raced, I fixed my gaze on the certificate. Somewhere deep inside, a delicate spot began to open up, and a voice within me murmured that perhaps I was on the verge of severing the only existence I had ever known. Sitting in my car outside the cafe on Boylston Street, the windshield wipers screeched back and forth as the rain fell in heavy silver sheets. In the mirror, I could see a face that I recognized, but wasn't convinced actually belonged to me. Holding onto the wheel, I could not feel my fingers. I was in a state of nervous naughtiness. A part of me wished I could just get in my car and drive away like nothing had ever transpired. But like a neon beacon, the name on the birth certificate blazed in my memory. Rose Madison Hale. Unsteadily, I pried open the door and limped inside. A doorbell jingled from atop the door. I was suddenly overwhelmed by the aroma of wet clothes and roasted coffee beans. At a nearby corner table, Carol was already seated. Her eyes were rimmed with weariness, and she appeared smaller than I recalled, slumped into a blue cardigan. A paper cup crinkled when her fists curled around it with such force. A mixture of relief and worry washed across her face as she laid eyes on me. In a low voice she said, Olivia, or Madison, as if she was afraid to choose. My chair screeched on the tile as I slid into the seat across from her. Unfiltered, my voice emerged. A birth certificate was located, with my name Madison on it, and my mother's name is posted as your sister's. Carol gasped for air. Her eyes gleamed as if she had dried her eyes. "I knew it," she muttered. "The moment I laid eyes on you, I knew." "Why, oh why took you so long to locate me?" My wrath was like a live wire cutting through my trepidation, and I demanded it. "When I've been here the whole time, how have no one come looking for me?" Carol sounded somewhat nervous. "Because we were lost and didn't know where to seek. The authorities were concerned that you may have drowned or been abducted. You were so little. Your mother, who was also my sister, passed away from cancer 2 years after you disappeared. Optimism was always there for her. Always." A huge agonizing knot grew in my throat. "I can't recall a thing about this," I rasped. "No, she cannot. No, you are not. Completely nothing." Carefully taking out of her tattered little photo album, Carol slung her tote bag onto her lap and unzipped it. She opened it and placed it delicately on the table. "She brought up the fact that it was your 5th birthday. Franklin Park was the site of our celebration. The use of pink balloons was your solemn request. What a pink lover you were." I looked down at a snapshot of a small girl whose pigtails were worn in a dark chestnut style, and whose eyes crinkled with a smile so broad. A delicate pink outfit adorned with white stars belonged to her. Looking at that mirror was like looking at a time-stamped reflection of myself. A sudden acute pain of an unidentifiable kind hit me. "This doesn't prove anything," I said, my voice quivering and trembling. Carol turned the page again. "You were with your mom like this too. Hi there, Catherine. Our sibling was really young. The two of you were a perfect match." The picture of the woman had my same characteristic soft face, a mild smile, and eyes. As she giggled, she cradled the child to her hip. Before I could even begin to compose myself, a sob sprang forth. My hand was suddenly encircled by Carol's. She shook with cold, trembling fingers. "I fully anticipate that you may not recall immediately," she remarked. "But I want you to know that we looked everywhere. Flyers were hanged. We spoke with news reporters. We went so far as to employ private detectives. The fight was never lost. The photographs were distorted because tears streamed down my face. I don't understand why the Monroes never informed me about this." Carol clenched her jaw. "Perhaps they thought it would be best if you didn't know. Perhaps their love for you was strong enough to make them think it was the best choice. However, Olivia, we had you taken from us." I felt like my whole chest was about to collapse. "I felt like I had a good grasp on my identity," I stuttered. "I believed my life had meaning, that my parents loved me." Carol again delved inside her purse and removed a little velvet packet. She unhooked the drawstrings and emptied the contents onto her palm, a little worn and scratched silver charm in the shape of a star. She claimed it as hers. "Once you became 4 years old, your mom handed it to you as a gift. You sported it daily." With shaky hands, I reached for the charm. Just looking at it brought back a powerful and intense recollection of my mother's voice saying, "My little star," and my tiny fingers clinging to silver. Suddenly I felt a lump in my throat. A plastic baggie was extended by Carol. Within was a kit for DNA testing. "I have already taken mine," she said. "We can finally know for sure if you're willing." My chest tightened as I fixed my unwavering gaze on the kit. Outside I could hear the furious storm and the loud drumming of the rain on the windows. I spoke in a barely audible whisper. "Honestly, I'm not sure I'm prepared for this." My hand was gripped by Carol. "Truth doesn't wait for us to be ready," she declared. "Yet the truth remains." Taking the equipment from her made me cry uncontrollably. I swabbed the inside of my cheek and sealed it into the tube, my fingers quivering as I broke the seal. I felt it in my bones that there was no turning back now. On the table I placed the set. Carol gazed upon it with reverence. The rain temporarily subsided outside and the silence was nearly overwhelming. "Everything I believed about my life is a lie," I muttered. "If this is true," Carol blinked and her voice quivered. "Not a fabrication, simply a tale whose pages you were not privy to at the time." Sitting there, I stared at the woman who may be my aunt while distant thunder boomed. I couldn't help but wonder whether my whole existence had been predicated on the pain of another person. A 10-day period seemed like an eternity. With clammy palms and a racing heart, I checked my inbox with each notification. Bills, medical updates, and unwanted credit card offers were the only things that came in each time. Up until it was finally there. Please find attached the urgent DNA results. Unsteady, my index finger dangled above the mouse. I sat alone in my apartment while the rain tapped on the windows, casting a spectral shadow of Boston's cityscape beyond. Clicking caused my chest to tremble with every breath. Relationship probability, almost certain. Carol Matthews is your actual maternal aunt. The words were nearly unintelligible since my vision clouded so rapidly. I felt a sudden shift from chilly to scorching as waves engulfed me, forcing me to gasp for breath. My knees buckled under me. As the laptop slipped off the coffee table, I collapsed into the floor next to my sofa. Rose Madison Hale. I was the one doing it. The daughter of James and Ellen Monroe. I was not Olivia Monroe. I was a little girl who went missing from a backyard 28 years ago, and my family has searched the entire globe for me. As my heart raced like a tornado, I buried my hand in my chest, attempting to quiet it. I had transient mental images like the static on old film. A ride-on toy, a chestnut-haired woman gently singing, a sun-drenched pink gown. Then it was nightfall. Someone tapped on my pocket-sized phone. Sarah was the one. "Hey, Liv, did you pick up that email?" As I attempted to raise my voice, I swallowed. "Yeah, no problem." With a gasp, she exhaled. "Yeah, that's right." "You're Madison." Uncontrollable sobs cascaded down my cheeks. As I gulped out my words, I realized that I had lost any sense of myself. My entire worldview, including my identity, my family, and everything I hold dear, is based on a falsehood. Even Sarah's voice was weak and trembling as she sobbed. "Anyone you are, Liv or Maddie, is still you. On your 21st birthday, you were the one who restrained my hair when I had an upset stomach. On a daily basis, you are the one who rescues others. All of it remains the same." Still, things evolved. That was the turning point. For the simple reason that I was at a loss as to what questions to ask. My parents had kept this secret from me, but why? Why had they taken the kid of another person and whose identity was I, a specter known as Madison Hale, or a lady called Olivia Monroe? For what seemed like an eternity, I lay on the floor and stared into nothingness while the rain pounded like a pulse. I drew my phone closer and wiped my cheeks. Rereading the email word for word, I allowed its impact to sink in. I then contacted Carol. With a quiver in her voice, she answered the first ring. Seeing the outcomes was her statement. "It has to have been you," I thought. Despite the fact that my entire world was collapsing around me, I experienced a new sensation that cut through my terror for the very first time, feeling a little more at home. Due to the fact that I knew there was a family out there that had been waiting for me non-stop. Sunlight streamed into my parents' Quincy home on a Sunday afternoon, casting a warm glow on the framed photographs that adorned the hallway walls. Laughing and smiling in costumes I don't recall owning in a soccer gear, and embracing toy animals. With the DNA report clenched so firmly that the paper crumpled around my fingers, I stood at the living room doorway. Short, quick breaths escaped me. On the beige couch, my parents, James and Ellen Monroe, sat side by side, their fingers interlaced, as if they were preparing for a storm. I noticed my mother's face first, and her grin, which had been beaming down her face, quickly faded as she glanced up. "Love, what's wrong with you, Livy?" My voice caught as I attempted to speak. With a heavy heart, I extended the documents. The DNA results were sent to me. Father's shoulders drooped. Suppressing a little gasp, Mom's palm rushed to her lips. "Oh, Olivia," Mom said, her eyes welling up with tears. "We hoped it wasn't true, we really did." My voice sounded rough and shaking. "Is that so?" "By no means am I Olivia Monroe. My name is Madison Rose Hale." Father dropped his head. His voice was so low that it sounded gravelly. "We have no intention of causing you harm. Can you feel my pain?" My voice grew increasingly shrill, bordering on insanity. "You bloomed me." I recoiled when my mother wept and reached out to me. "Look, we didn't take you—" "It's too much," she said. "We were under the impression that we were rescuing you." "Save me from what exactly?" I fired back. "Descended from my biological relatives, from my mom who passed away thinking I was dead." While her shoulders trembled, Mom hid her face in her palms. For some reason, Dad sat still, his gaze fixed on some faraway wall. Words came out of him slowly and rawly when he did speak. "For a long time we sought to start a family. There were 3 miscarriages for your mom. After each attempt at adoption, the process failed. Our situation was dire. Then one night, my cousin Mark called, referred to a woman he knew as having a child in need of a family. He informed us that the mother of the child was an addict, the fact that she had vanished and nobody wanted the child. The thump, thump, thump of my heart was audible to me. "So what are you doing, acquired me?" Mom moaned softly. "We didn't pay precisely. We gave Mark a few bucks to help the mother get on her feet." In other words, they avoided asking questions they didn't want answered. Oh my cries reverberated around the room. "It was obvious to you that something was up with this. That's the reason behind the name change. That's why you were completely mum on the subject of what happened before Boston." The words tumbled out of Mom as her weeping became more intense. "I beg you, Livy, make an effort to comprehend. Everyone here adored you. We did all in our power to help you. To us, you were everything." I was stinging with tears. I murmured, my voice quivering. "But you separated me from my biological family. They thought I was dead because of you." His crimson eyes widened as Dad scowled as he wiped his face. "A better life was what we believed we were providing for you. You were our world, and we were afraid the truth would separate us." I felt like treachery was going to crush me under its weight. "Did you happen to catch a glimpse of my face on any of those posters featuring missing children?" I screamed. "In response to my article, how many times did you choose to ignore the news?" Once again, Mom broke down into tears. "We were terrified that someone would see you every time. It was news that we stayed away from." Both of us remained silent, embarrassed actually. A deafening stillness descended upon the chamber. Lastly, Dad murmured, "We know we did wrong," his voice showing signs of cracking. "No matter what happens today, we are deserving." I fixed my gaze on my parents and grandparents, the ones who had kissed my skinned knees, taken me to bed when I was sick, and cheered me on at my graduations. Those same individuals had also withheld me from my relatives who had looked for me for decades. A rip had ripped open my chest. "I desire that you remain free from confinement," I said, my voice quivering somewhat. "Yet I really doubt that I will ever be able to forgive you." Mom's countenance drooped. "Everything is possible, Livy. Therapy may solve any problem." My view was clouded by tears. It was as if my voice had been destroyed. "Livy is not my name. Hi, my name is Madison. Who is it anyway? I need some time to sort it out." She held her mother's hands while she cried. As he looked down at the floor, Dad squeezed her shoulder. With my hands shaking from holding the DNA results, I stepped out into the faint winter sunlight, uncertain of whether I would ever again feel like someone's daughter. I was Madison Rose Hale, and the first time I drove to Carol's house, the sky over Boston was a bright blue. It was peculiar that the city appeared same despite the fact that my internal experiences were totally different. I was seated behind the wheel, clutching the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles became white, while the traffic signals flashed red and green. The Charles River glistened in the sunlight, and a steady stream of college students crossed the street with bags draped over their shoulders. A peaceful roadway bordered by maple trees is where I chose to park. Carol lived in a 2-story colonial that had worn yellow siding and flower beds that were partially covered with crunchy fall leaves. Climbing the front stairs made my legs quiver. Even before I knocked, Carol had already answered the door. I had begun to see a gentleness in her pink-rimmed eyes that I took to be optimism. "Madison," she said low. My airway narrowed. "Excuse me, Aunt Carol." We only exchanged looks for a brief instant. Next, she encircled me in an embrace that was so tight that it made it difficult for me to breathe. "I've been waiting for this for 28 years, she said, her voice muted by my hair. The aroma of cinnamon and coffee wafted through the home. Pictures of Christmas morning's birthday cakes with an excessive number of candles and family gatherings filled the album. The frames displayed smiling faces that bore a resemblance to me. After Carol escorted me into the living area, a middle-aged guy got up abruptly from the sofa. "Madison," he said in a low, unsure voice. "Kevin here. Uncle of yours." My eyes widened as I glanced at him. He had black hair, same like mine, and green eyes with golden sparkles. I said something along the lines of, "It's nice to meet you." He chuckled awkwardly. God, it's like meeting my niece and a complete stranger in one. We sat side by side, attempting to piece together what little information we had. Carol produced a photo album that I had previously perused in the cafe, paging through images of a little girl whose face matched mine, and a lady who had bestowed my eyes. With a gentle touch, Carol added, "That's your mother, Catherine." She gestured to a photograph of a lady with flowing hair and a yellow sundress. When she was a little girl, she would sing, "You are my sunshine to you before bed." A faint melody, the feel of a hand running over my hair, and the aroma of vanilla all pushed against my recollection. Wept into my eyes were my sobs. Within my whisper, I expressed my desire to recall her. Carol extended her arm and gently squeezed my hand. "And you will, piece by piece. Memory works in mysterious ways. It returns when you least anticipate it." Kevin stooped down. "Know that there is absolutely no pressure from us. Embrace the pace that suits you best. Everything has been turned upside down for you." My heart hurt from too many emotions to list, yet I nodded nevertheless. Carol slipped away for an instant, then reappeared clutching a little object. Her voice quivered as she spoke. "I've been hoarding this for you. When you vanished, I discovered it in your former bedroom." With one ear flopped backward and hair matted, she extended a gentle gray rabbit. "Oh, Mr. Buttons." Its mere appearance caused my breath to shorten. With a quiver in my hand, I gently lifted the plush animal onto my lap. As soon as my flesh made contact with the weathered cloth, a lightning-fast flood of memories erupted within me. The screeching of my little voice, "Mr. Hey there, Buttons." As the sound of a woman's laughter filled the air, I held the bunny close to my breast. My backyard in the light. Some swings. A scent that belonged to my mom, a blend of floral notes and vanilla. As I embraced the bunny tightly, tears streamed down my cheeks. My forehead was pushed to Carol's. "I always thought we would find you." Dinner that night was my stay. In the background, Carol brewed sweet tea while Kevin cooked chicken on the back porch. Sitting around the table, we shared stories that made us laugh and cry. At the same time, it seemed terribly familiar. Carol gave me a little box while I was still eating dessert. The silver star charm that I had noticed at the cafe was inside. She then declared, "This is yours," her eyes beaming with emotion. "It has always done." I held the star close to my neck, feeling the cool metal on my flesh. I had a sense of tranquility that had eluded me for weeks. My identities were Madison Rose Hale and Olivia Monroe. I now owned both names. My blood has the marks of both life. I still wasn't entire, but I was beginning to think that it was possible. The cops wasted no time in beginning their investigation. As I attempted to sneak out the side door in my scrubs, reporters surrounded the hospital, pointing cameras at me and asking me questions after my DNA results were made public. Still, the cops found something rather sinister lurking beneath the surface of the chaos. Mark, my so-called dad's cousin, was more than simply an innocent intermediary. He had assisted the Monroes in adopting me. His activities included faking paperwork, selling new identities to desperate families, and trafficking children over state boundaries. In a clean room at the precinct, investigators questioned me about my recollection of certain people and faces from that time, and my gut knotted up. Neither could I assist them. Fragmented fragments made up my recollections. One thing was certain, though, I would not remain silent. With that, I began to give speeches in front of large audiences. To highlight how quickly a youngster may go into another life and make headlines, local news outlets asked me to relate my tale. One night, as I sat in front of the camera in the scorching glow of the TV studio lights, I spoke to the audience and encouraged them to seek answers to questions about themselves if they were watching. Your honesty is important. It can be found with the aid of those who are willing to do so. A group named Children Reunited got in touch with me a few days after that. Among its goals was assisting victims of human trafficking in re-establishing relationships with their families and reuniting lost children with their families. To provide a hand, I volunteered with them. In the breaks between my shifts at the hospital, I would sit with grieving moms holding old photographs while I helped them fill out paperwork and consoled them as they sobbed. I wished I could offer them the same opportunity at truth and healing that Carol had offered me, for all the pain I had felt would have been worthwhile if my tale could save one other misplaced kid. My phone rang with a message from Carol one crisp November morning, as sunshine flooded through the blinds of my modest apartment. "Give me a ring whenever you have a chance. The subject at hand is your father." My heart skipped a beat. I had taken it for granted for weeks that the father unknown Dallas line on my birth certificate would remain blank in my tale indefinitely. However, Carol's voice quivered with anticipation when I phoned her. "Madison, we located him." My heart was pounding and I collapsed onto the couch. My dad? My speech stumbled. "I thought Mom never revealed his identity to anyone, right?" "Oh my," Carol exhaled forcefully. "She withheld certain information from me. However, your mom confided in one of her closest friends in Denver after you vanished. Seeing your tale on the television prompted the buddy to contact me." My head spun, so I shut my eyes. "Ethan Hale is his name," Carol went on to say. "At now he resides in Vermont. Even after you were abducted, he had no idea about the adoption. He believed your mom had distanced herself and did not want him to be involved. As a result of my shaking hands, I almost dropped the phone. He is still alive." "How on earth?" I murmured softly. "Himself has been out there the entire time." "Yes," Carol said softly. "Additionally, he is interested in meeting with you. That is, unless you are prepared." As the first rays of sunlight streamed across Tremont Street, I gazed out my window and watched the vehicles go by. A nameless, faceless man who disappeared long before I was born has been in my mind ever since. At last, a name emerged. An active man. An unidentified individual who had mysteriously skipped my birthdays for decades, despite the fact that he may have my eyes and laugh. I'm at a loss for words," I whispered. Carol's tone became more kind. "Do not rush things, my darling. Take your time. Still, he has spent the whole week perusing your photo album. Every time he sees you, he starts crying." My view was clouded by tears. In Vermont, my dad was holding out hope for a daughter he'd never held, and I felt for the first time like the last piece of my identity that had been concealed could be returning home. The breeze brushed over my face as I stood on my apartment balcony and watched the city lights twinkle across Boston's skyline, like a constellation of stars. Down below, cars sped like little lifeblood pumps. As it rose and fell into the darkness, a distant siren wailed. Encircling myself, I could feel the weight of the silver star pendant on my flesh, a symbol of both my history and my hope for the future. Olivia Monroe is my name. Additionally, Madison Rose Hale is involved. I now own both names. The woman I've grown into is a complex web in which these two realities reside. I used to think that a person's identity was unchanging, something that could be described in a few lines on a birth certificate, a family tree, or the bedtime stories your parents shared with you. For some reason, I always assumed that the past was unchangeable and should be kept in a secure location. However, my current knowledge is more accurate. Something I didn't anticipate was the appearance of my history in an unexpected place, like a hospital corridor held in the quivering hands of an unfamiliar person who recognized my face, and that occasionally the very folks who showered you with affection as a child may also be the ones who buried secrets so deep that they threatened to consume you whole. Truth is unrelenting, I've realized. It isn't waiting for you to be prepared. Like a hurricane, it rages in demanding attention. What I did learn, though, is that love is complex, and that it is possible for someone to love you deeply despite their terrible errors. I've learned the hard way that letting go of the past isn't necessary for healing. What this implies is that you need to figure out how to carry it, but not allow it define you. Everything from meeting Carol to seeing my mother's smile in old photos to finally hugging my Uncle Kevin to learning that my biological father is eager to meet me has helped me rediscover parts of myself that I didn't realize were missing. For the life I believed I had, I am still hurting. Even now there are evenings when I feel a tightness in my chest and question who I am. However, I am also creating a new life for Olivia and Madison layer by layer. Additionally, I would like anybody listening to keep in mind the following. A person's origins are only one component of their identity. It all comes down to your personal choices. Members of one's own family, or those who rally behind them in times of need, are both considered family. The truth can set you free even if it breaks all you know. So if you're struggling with self-doubt and looking for answers, keep on. Persist in your search. Persist in inquiring. Reason being, the reality will eventually catch up with you. Occasionally, when you least anticipate it, everything might change in the most unexpected ways on the most mundane of days.